Hello, this is God's Loving Sacrifice, and I'm GLS. Today we're going to talk about mountaintops. There are many scriptures about the mountains. The Ten Commandments were given on a mountain, and Jesus was tempted on the mountain. Today, the mountaintop we're going to talk about is the one that we reach when we've been going through trials and tribulations and we've fought hard to get there. The one we would never get to if God hadn't carried us most of the way up. We worry about how we're going to make it, but little by little, God gets us there. The problem occurs when we find ourselves on the mountaintop and we're so happy we tell others what we've accomplished, forgetting what God did for us. We only see that we made it. But if you stop and look around the tall mountaintops, you will see a beautiful view and not much else. The tall mountaintops are covered in snow and the air is thin. Personally, I'd rather spend my time in the valley. On the mountaintop, when you look down, it's hard to see the valley, but from the valley, you can see the mountaintop covered in snow. Things in the Bible happen on the mountain. Moses received 10 commandments there, and Jesus was tempted by the devil in the mountain. The last one is a real problem for us, because when we get to the mountaintop and we start talking about how much we have accomplished and how we made it to the mountaintop, that's when Satan likes to come in and start telling you how well you did. You didn't need God to accomplish this. You could have made it all by yourself. We fall into believing that we did do it on our own. And that is the point where we face spiritual death. The mountaintop is a good place to get, but not someplace I want to stay. But let's look at the valley. The valley has cool grass and streams and trees and gentle paths. It reminds me of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The valley is just that. It's where God leads us, strengthens us, feeds us, and gives us rest. When we are in the valley, we look up, and that's what we need to do. I know that sometimes when you're in the valley, it's because hard times are coming, or you're in some hard times, and things are happening that we cannot fix, and we feel like we're at the bottom of the world, but we only have to look up and find that God has us covered. When I sang, one of the songs that meant a lot to me to sing was a song called The Light at the End of the Darkness. Part of the words say, I was looking up from the bottom when he finally shined on me. And for me, I thought I was on the mountaintop. At one point in time, I had turned my back on God, found myself doing things that I shouldn't be doing, living a life I shouldn't be living. And I had gotten to the point where I'd done some things I never dreamed I would ever do in my life. And at that point, I decided I was going to go to church. So on Sunday morning, I got up, got dressed, and went to church. I sat down in the pew and waited for the church service to begin. The pastor stood at the podium and started to speak, and before he got through a whole sentence, I started to cry. God showed me where I really was, and I was not on the mountaintop. I thought I had made it. I thought I was cool. I thought I was living the dream. But inside that church, in the presence of God, I found out what I thought was the mountaintop was the most barren, unyielding place I could ever be in my entire life. I could not wait until the pastor quit preaching, and I was not ashamed or afraid to walk down the aisle when they had the altar call. Even the pastor said, the first time I looked at you, I knew you were going to be here. I had been raised in church since I was 3 years old. I had known God. I had seen him work. I had felt his presence. But because I thought I had made it, I didn't need him. But that weekend, he showed me just how much I needed him. And it showed me that I hadn't been living on the mountaintop. I hadn't even been living in the valley. I was living in a dark hole. That was probably the scariest time of my life and probably the most wonderful time. Scary because I knew I had to leave behind all the things I had been doing and the friends that I had And on top of that, I had a husband who had not given up anything, and I had to go home and tell him we would be changing our lives. He was not happy. But I had made a promise to God. I had given him my life for the last time, and I was determined I was going to live by the scripture, knowing that as long as I was living by the scripture, no one could pluck me out of his hands unless I allowed it. So when we think we're on the mountaintop, when we think we have done it all, when we think we've accomplished so much, we need to stop and look and see if we're really on the mountaintop, or have we committed spiritual hara-kiri. Not everyone that goes to the mountaintop turns their back on God. It just seems like it's so much easier to do when you think you're on the mountaintop and that you think you've done it. You need to really make sure that you're not in the bottom of a hole. If you remember, Jesus said in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." He does give you rest, and found a new joy in my life, and that's when I started singing. I saw all the possibilities that God had laid out before me, and since that day, God has blessed me with such wonderful talents and such wonderful faith. So as we climb our way up to the mountaintop, let's not forget who carried us part of the way up there. When you get there, don't forget you wouldn't be there without God. Yes, I know the way is rocky, but I heard someone say one time if the hill was slick, you just slide back down. So his paths aren't always easy, but his strength is always enough. Next time, remember when you're in a valley that that's where you get fed, and that's where God holds us, feeds us, and teaches us, and where he gives us the strength to make it to the mountaintop again. Thank you.